Hello, friends. I'm so glad you're back. Today, we are continuing the discussion on book marketing and promotion. So, once your book is ready to be published or has been published, how do you get it sold? What do you need to do? We're covering all the things in this month's theme. And today, I wanted to just kind of get the elephant in the room out of the way and talk about what kind of time and money and energy you need to put into this. What are the required resources? And if you know anything about me, you know I come from a legal background, so I sometimes like to pretend I'm a lawyer. And I'll say, this is the most lawyerly answer I can give you, and it's called, it depends. It depends. It really, truly depends. If you want to make your book a huge success, I will tell you, and it's not a guarantee, but the more time, energy, and money you put into promoting it, the more you're going to get out. So it really depends on your efforts and your energy. Now, I'm going to give you a couple asterisks to that statement. Number one, it's not like the more money you spend, the more money you're going to make. There are very unwise decisions when it comes to spending in any area of life. But specifically within the book marketing world, things like hiring a publicist, for example, can be extremely expensive and not always in your best interest. So I will be talking specifically about some of those things in future videos. Please come back for those specific discussions. But what I want you to start doing when you think about the resources that are required to market your book, I want you to, number one, consider your end goal. Do you have a monetary goal in sight? Do you want to make $5,000, $10,000, whatever the number is? Look at that end number and do some math backwards. You need to do the backwards math to understand how much are you making per book? How much are you making per ebook, per hard copy, audiobook, whatever you got going on? Understand your profit on each book and understand what it means to take that profit number and multiply it by the number of books required to get you to the ultimate goal. So start by doing a little bit of basic math to understand, hey, do you need to sell 10,000 books? What does that actually look like? What does it look like for you to get out there and talk enough about this book and do enough things for promoting this book that reaches you to the sale of 10,000 books? It could vary depending on your genre, depending on the, and when I say genre, I really mean like the topic of your book, what your book is about. It could depend on your connections, your current platform. It really depends on your current reach and your availability to put time into doing this. So if, let's just say for ease of argument, you're like, I want to sell 10,000 books. Do you have a time limit on that? Is it within a year? Is it within 6 months? Is it whenever? Obviously the shorter period of time, the more challenging it's going to be. So when we talk about required resources, we really need to put some parameters on this. What are your ultimate goals? What do you really want to achieve? I'm going to tell you that marketing your book and promoting your book can be absolutely free. You don't have to pay for anything when promoting your book or marketing your book. You can use some of the profits you might be getting from some early sales and use it towards maybe some promotional tools. We'll talk about some more paid tools later on. But you don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to hire anyone. You don't have to put together anything fancy as far as, giveaways or whatever. You don't have to. There are many, many, many free options that can lead to a successful run for your book or whatever you want to call it. If you're just saying like the first year or first 6 months, whatever. But if you do decide to spend money on marketing, I want you to be very realistic about, number one, what is in your budget, and number two, the sources of where you spend that money. Are you spending it in a place that is smart for your book? Are you utilizing some tested and tried and really successful promotional tools, or are you using some newer ones that might break into a different market? You're going to need to do some research on what is going to work for your book depending on your current reach. So if you, let's say you have 20,000 people on an email list, you might not need to go much further than that. Maybe you have some deep connections with podcasts and this and that, and you're doing some guest blogging and all of that. Maybe you have an organic enough reach where you have connections with certain people that have bigger and bigger and bigger audiences that you're able to connect with and reach out. And it goes far beyond just your few friends on your Facebook page. But maybe that's all you have. It's just a couple friends on a Facebook page. If you're starting with a smaller reach, it's more likely that you're going to have to find ways and get creative and potentially pay for some services that help you expand that reach. So again, it depends, but you do want to get very clear on what's your budget. If you are able to dedicate $50 a month, that's not nothing. That's going to get you somewhere. You just have to determine what the best use of those dollars are. Then next, you need to think about your availability. Get realistic. Are you working full time? Do you have a family that you're trying to connect with and not be completely away from at all in your free time? Or are you able to stay at home and focus and make this more of a full-time thing? Think about the time that you had dedicated to writing while your book was being written. Did you write for 1 hour every morning before work, or did you write every weekend for 4 hours? Could that be available for your marketing efforts and you just don't fill that space with anything else? Look at your week or your month, however you want to break it down, and determine what time you have available. I would say if you have an hour a day to market your book, that's a pretty good amount of time. You don't have to make this a full-time job, but the more effort you put into it, the better the results will be, is typically how the equation goes. In my experience, and I think you'll hear that from other published authors as well, that the more you put into something like this, like book marketing, the more you're going to get out. Again, you can go down the wrong trail and end up throwing money into a wishing well, and it doesn't produce any fruits of your efforts. That's always a risk. So make sure you understand what you're getting into. Always do your due diligence, do your research, potentially connect with other people who have used specific promotional platforms or whatever you're looking into. And think about the goals for your book. Is 10,000 copies truly reasonable? Do you want to sell 10,000 copies in your first month? That might be unreasonable depending on your book. It might not. So you really need to understand what is standard, what is normal, what is appropriate to expect, and set your expectations accordingly. If you are traditionally publishing, you may end up with a much different, I guess, calculation for this expenditure is a good word, because you might potentially be able to reach millions of people through the publisher, but they may put you under more, I guess they may expect more from you is what I want to say. I don't want to use the word pressure, like they're going to put pressure on you, but you may feel pressured to do more. You may, instead of 1 hour a day, you might need 3 hours a day to really get out there and speak to people and do this and do that. And they might have you really committed to something a bit more involved. So this type of discussion could go many different ways depending on your path, your publication path, depending on your goals, depending on your budget and your availability for time and energy. This takes a lot of energy. You also really do need to be strategic about how you are promoting and marketing, and we're going to get into more of the nuts and bolts here in the next few videos. So I know I didn't give you an answer, but people do like to ask, well, how much should I spend on my book marketing? And like, how much time is this going to take? And really the answer is it depends. You don't have to spend a dime and you don't have to spend a minute. And if you don't want to, you can still publish a book and it can still sell copies. It just may not sell as much and you may not reach as many people. So we will continue this discussion in the next few videos throughout this month, this theme, and I want you to come back so you continue adding to the layers of this onion and we get more and more involved into the marketing of your book. I'll see you then.